Amen. Well, I tell you what, we're going to talk about in the book of Nehemiah today. The next 2 weeks, we're going to be in the book of Nehemiah. I don't usually do a lot of series, but this is only a 2-week series, but we're going to do it. We're going to talk about rebuilding the wall, maintaining in the face of opposition. Rebuilding the wall, maintaining in times of opposition, in the face of opposition. Nehemiah, what an incredible man. If you've never read it, go to the book of Nehemiah. It's him narrating, him telling his story. And I wish a lot of the Old Testament was like this, but it's him talking about being there. He's the cupbearer to the king, which means he's the taste tester. Okay, if it's poison, he goes first, right? He's the cupbearer. So he's in the court of the king. This is all in chapter 1. We're going to get to chapter 4 and we'll give you the intro, right? We'll give you some background information. I like history. So anyway, he's there and he's the cupbearer and he's sad. He's been talking to people that have been coming in and out of the court and things, and he just hears there's a remnant. The remnant of the exile have returned a little bit, and the city of Jerusalem the walls are tattered, the gates have been burned, it's pretty much destroyed, and it's God is distraught. And so the king notices, he's upset. He says, "Why do you look sad? You're not sick." And he says, "I've never been sad in the court before." Which lets us know a little bit about him. One, no matter his situation, he was content. He was going to live the life to the fullest, no matter what his situation. He was going to be there and do his job, and he was the cupbearer. I just can't get over that. Can you imagine being the taste tester or the poison control for someone? I mean, I know it's to the king, but man, you walk in, you're like, every time he gives you, "Hey, here's my wine." Of course, I can't imagine being the king always drinking after somebody. You know, it's, hey, a little less saliva next time, you know. Anyway, that's gross. I'm sorry. And you know, as he begins to talk to the king, and he's like, "Why are you upset?" And he's like, "Okay, Lord, here it goes." And he begins to tell the king about the city of Jerusalem and the walls and how he wants to rebuild them. And the king's like, "Okay, what do you want me to do?" And so he says, "Well, king, basically, if I've been pleasing to you as a servant, would you do this?" And he says, "Would you allow me to go?" And the king's like, "How long will you be gone?" And he states it. And not only that, he goes further and says, "King, you know what, could you write me some letters and let me, you know, to give me safe passage? You know, still not a real safe area. So can you, to give me safe passage there and back? And, oh, by the way, can you write a letter to the lumber mill, to your chief guy who's in charge, and that he'll cut the timbers for the gates and all this kind of stuff?" And you know what? Now it's amazing. Now it's not just, you know, hey, you can go for a little while, take some time off. Now it's costing the king money. And now the king, you know, he's almost like, and he sent infantry and cavalry with him. You got to pay those soldiers. The king was actually invested in this a little bit. Must be hard to find a good cupbearer. Anyway, I want us to jump. This is kind of what's happening. His vision to rebuild something that is dead. His vision, because it was a passion, it was something that these people got, it became, just God laid it on his heart that this is what he has to do. And we're going to say this a couple times today. It was never his intention to go out, but it's not his job to be successful, it's his job to be obedient. Let me say that again. He's going to go and he's got to rebuild. He's got this passion to rebuild the walls. He's got his passion to go and do this. It's not his job to be successful. If God has laid it on him, it's God's job, right? It is God's job to determine the success of this. It is his job to be obedient. As we're going to look through this, there's a lot of verses today, so I'm going to read through it and give you the food right away instead of reading it twice. So as we get ready to go, here we come to this. He's gone. Now, anytime somebody starts to do something in the name of God, there are people in opposition to it. We've got to get this through our mind. The world hates us. It hates our Lord. So the fact that things are going on against the church today should not be a surprise to us. But even in these factors, they set out because their job is to be obedient. Here we go. Starting at verse 1. It would help if I get the first page. There we go. Page 1. Verse 1. Now, when I butcher these names, it's okay? I don't want to hear, Pastor, there's a vowel in there. Okay, as we get ready to go through this, it's the Old Testament. My tongue is the same as yours. It only twists so far with some of these. And so we're going to go through it. Okay, here we go. When Sanballat heard that they were rebuilding the wall, he became angry and was greatly incensed. He ridiculed the Jews, and in the presence of his associates in the army of Samaria, he said, "What are these feeble Jews doing? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life from those heaps of rubble, burned as they are?" You can do a complete sermon right there and I can be done. Right here, as I look at this, verse 1, I want to tell you this. When opposition comes, we need to stay focused, but here's what opposition will do. First of all, they are very brave when they are surrounded by people who will agree with them. Right? Look at this. When Sanballat heard that they were rebuilding the wall, he became angry. And it just happened to be that he was greatly incensed, but he ridiculed the Jews in the presence of his associates. He had his horde around him. He had his group around him. So he was brave. It's amazing to me how opposition dwindles when it's one-on-one. Right? I like that back over there. And then because he knew he had a group, he ridiculed the Jews. See, that's the other one. Then they get here and they go, attacks. The Jews are feeble. He says they're weak. They're unable. They're not up to the task of what they need to do. Then he just basically says, can they do it? He attacks the mission. Will they restore the wall? He attacks the mission. Will they offer sacrifices? Meaning, will they continue to do what they need to do just in ordinary life? Can you imagine the Jews remembering? It's not long that they remembered the walls coming down. They remember what it was like in the city beforehand. They remember life there. He's attacking all that. And then one more time he says this. He says, will they finish in a day? A lot of times to make their point seem like it's okay, they'll come up with some outlandish statement. It is impossible. Only God can physically put these things back together today. Right? So they say something outlandish just to make it seem that much more impossible about what you're trying to do. I love crackers. Have you seen random nuggets of crackers? It's not that I'm hungry and I'm ready for the Sunday school party and things, although I am. But growing up, one of my favorite snacks, and this, you may go, what in the world? This may explain some things about you. Is I would get real butter and regular crackers and just put butter on crackers and eat it. My mom and we would share that snack. I don't know if it was because we were poor or today I'll do this. At night, I don't know what to eat. I don't know what's something heavy. I'm like, we got some saltines. I'm in business. You know, the worst thing is to finally get the saltines and look in the tub of butter and it's gone and you're scraping the sides and trying to get it to go. Here's the task that they have. You have limestone and shale and stuff like that they're working with. It's a very brittle rock. When you break it, it shatters. You ever eat something or put something on a cracker and you're going to bite it and you don't eat the whole cracker at a time? It shatters. There's big pieces and little pieces and crumbs, and you're doing everything you can not to get it all down the front. And so I just give up. I wear an old shirt and just wipe it off at the end. But these crackers, you eat these. Here is the job. They have got to go out and rebuild the walls of Jerusalem with limestone that have been on fire. And so they're brittle. They got to put these back together. And you know what? If you've ever tried to put something back together that flakes and shatters, you can get the big pieces to go. It's the dust and the little pieces, and it leaves cracks and crevices. And so they don't go back together. This is almost an impossible task that they got before them. And then finally he says this: can they bring these stones back to life from those heaps of rubble burned as they are? So you think about these walls that have crumbled and all kind of stuff, like taking a whole row of crackers and mashing them up and try to put them back together again. You know what? People say eventually it's possible. Well, yeah, it is, but I don't have that much time left in my life to put that together. Can they bring these stones back to life? I've often been told, and my wife is an amazing inspiration to me. She once told me, she says, Sean, don't dream so small that you can do it. I said, what? Don't dream so small that you can handle it. Dream big enough to where it takes God. Right? Amen. Come on, we got to wake up today. Dream big enough to where it takes God to fulfill the dream. Because if I can do it, then I can give myself the praise. If I can do it, then it's my energy. It's me doing it, right? Nehemiah has taken on a challenge that is so big, so instrumental to this whole big idea of what he wants to do, that this dream is so big that it takes God to do it. So that's the reason why success isn't up to him. Obedience is. Verse 3. Tobiah the Ammonite, who was at his side. What are they building? Even a fox climbing up on it will break it down their wall stones. Which is impossible when you think about it. But there again, the outlandish, and so others are coming in with it. Verse 4. Here's verse 4 and 5. This is Nehemiah. He's a man of prayer. If you don't know this, here he is. He says, hear us, our God, for we are despised. Turn their insults back on their own heads. Give them over as plunder in the land of captivity. Do not cover up their guilt or blot out their sins from your sight, for they have thrown insults in the face of the builders. Of the face of the people who are being obedient, they're doing this. But we're not going to do anything. Because God, it's up to you. You've called us. This is actually a testament to them, that their response to what's going on. Because you know what? Part of me, and this is where God, part of me wants to just, I'm going to punch the guy in the face. Right? I'm going to defend myself. How dare you? God has called me to do this and you've risen up. We're going to go at it. It's a throwdown now. We'll see if my group's bigger than your group, whatever we can do. Which also happens in the church today. We get groups versus groups instead of meeting and praying and deciding what's going on. And so here we got a way that they're supposed to respond. Lord, no matter what he says here, the idea is this. God, you take it. You deal with it. We're going to be obedient to your calling. If it fails, it fails. If it succeeds, it succeeds. But we're going to be obedient. Because later in 70 AD, the Romans came in and tore the wall down again. It happens, it's been sacked. Jerusalem's been plundered. He didn't think about the future. He thought about what God has called him to do at that moment with his people. Verse 6. So we rebuilt the wall till all of it reached half its height. For the people worked with all their hearts. You know what? They stayed focused. Even though in the face of opposition, in the army of Samaria, all this around, all this opposition came against them, challenged their thinking processes, challenged their ability, and ultimately they challenged God when they did. And so they began to do it. And this drove the opposition crazy. Because you know what? They began to be successful. They began to rebuild the wall. Matter of fact, they got it to where it says how much it was. Halfway done. Now all of a sudden we get to this part where it says, because the people worked with all their hearts, and in verse 7, but when Sanballat, Tobiah, the Arabs, the Ammonites, and the people of Ashdod, there we go, heard that the repairs in Jerusalem's walls had gone ahead and that the gaps were being closed, they were very angry. Because you know what? As long as there's gaps in the wall doesn't mean much. And until you can build that wall around the city, you can't protect the city. You can't protect the citizens. And so it can be invaded. It can be pillaged. All that can take place. But they began to do it in such an amazing way. Everybody was working. Everybody was focused. Halfway done, they've done this and they've rebuilt it. And the gaps were being closed in. The crackers were being put back together. Can you imagine people going, it says they were very angry. They're actually doing it. Some of them are embarrassed because it's actually taking place. And I said, they made the statement that even a fox could jump up there and the walls would fall down again. And now it's halfway done. They worked with all their hearts. People were united instead of divided, and they began to put it together. But you know what? When opposition not only gets angry, then we get verses 8 and 9. They all plotted together to come and fight against Jerusalem and stir up trouble against it. They all plotted together. Now you got to understand, up at the top, Ashdod and Sanballat, they heard that the repairs were going well. Where did they hear that from? There were people in the camp itself. There were Jews who were reporting back to them, letting them know what is going on. So now Nehemiah not only has the opposition from out, but now he's got people in his own camp reporting back to what's going on. They all plotted together to come and fight against Jerusalem and stir up trouble against it. Stir up trouble. That has all kinds of connotations in the church. Matthew 18 talks about that when we have troubles with one another, we go to one another and deal with it. We surrender to God and say, Lord, it's yours. We already see how Nehemiah handled it and say, God, you take care of it. Stirring up trouble. We go on down here, verse 9, but we prayed to our God and posted a guard day and night to meet this threat. Nehemiah was not only a man of action, but he was a man of practicality. And he knew that as things begin to happen, and I guarantee you, anytime you start a project of life, and anytime you start a project, it never goes exactly as written. I don't know, you know what? Terry and I are doing stuff to the house. And you know what? Just when we think we got money to do something, the air conditioner goes out. And you're like, that's money that could have been over here. But you know what? Then we rephrase that, thank God we had the money to fix the air conditioning. You know what? By the time the guy got there, I was telling somebody when he got there, and he's like, well, it cost it. I'm like, fix it. I'll sell blood. Let me know, fix it. Nehemiah met the threat that was happening. Verse 10, meanwhile the people in Judah said, the strength of the laborers is giving out, and there is so much rubble that we cannot rebuild the wall. You know what? They had already built half of it. So this is what happened. The opposition began to have its effect and to divide their attention. Because when they were worried about nothing but building the wall, it was happening. Everybody hear me? When they were united and together and with all their hearts, they were putting the walls back together with this common goal in mind. It was happening. Now all of a sudden the opposition is the mind threats, the different things that are, everything that's going wrong. People in their camp reporting and doing different things. And you know what? Everybody knows who those people are. Now all of a sudden we get to 10. The people in Judah said the strength of the laborers is giving out. Now there's so much rubble. We cannot rebuild the wall. Verse 11, also our enemies said, before they know it or see us, we will be right there among them and we will kill them and put an end to their work. Verse 12, then the Jews who lived near them came and told us 10 times over, wherever you turn, they will attack us. All of a sudden, when their focus was divided and it wasn't united, when they weren't focused on just being obedient, they were looking at, can we be successful? When that happened, all of a sudden, when you're divided like that, your energies fall. There's enemies everywhere. There's problems unsurmountable everywhere. We can't do it. The problems are everywhere. Life gets like that for us at times. Problems with money, problems with work and meaning no money, problems with breaking down so the money I do make is gone. We go problems, and with God, it is not me to be successful, it's me to be obedient. What do you have me to do? Verse 13, Nehemiah being a proactive leader. Therefore I stationed some of the people behind the lowest points of the wall at the exposed places, posting them by families with swords and spears and bows. After I looked things over, I stood up and said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord who is great and awesome, and fight for your families, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your homes. What an amazing thought he had. He's just not going to put the army about. Who will you fight more for? A stranger or your family? He grouped families together. You know what? We are the family of God. We should be united and fighting for each other, protecting each other's back and sides. Instead, we have people in the camp that are backbiting and wanting to destroy the wall. Because I tell you what, you mess with my family, I am hard-pressed to keep my religion with them, right? There was a story when we lived in Abilene of this mother. And she stopped at the gas station. She, took the thing out. And when she went to grab the gas, she left the door open. And a guy jumped in to carjack it and started to take off. Normally, I think the woman would have turned around and said, oh my gosh, just screaming or whatever. But the guy did not know that her baby was in the back seat. She jumped into the window, steered the car over. You know how sometimes gas stations have one of those cement walls around it, separating it. And this car went and hit the wall. She had one of those things called the club. It's an iron piece of steel you put on your steering wheel so it can. She reached under, grabbed the club. This little lady, who's like a 6-foot, 240-pound guy trying to do this. This little lady grabbed the club, dragged the guy out of her car, and started beating him with the club. Thank God the police were close, because they're the ones that pulled her off. She beat him until the police came. She broke both of his legs, ruptured his spleen, and various other injuries that those are the two that I'm like, she hit him so hard she ruptured his spleen and broke his legs. And she still kept beating him. And the title of the article was, "Don't Mess with the Mama." I'll tell you this. I've seen people try to attack my children. And I've seen my 5-foot wife look 7'5". We had a teacher that smacked one of our daughters across the face and told her something. My wife was ready to smack her. She didn't. But she was ready to. I can see Precious and So, think about Nehemiah here. Nehemiah, he's he's very smart. I believe he's led by God to do this. He placed families together. Because when family is faced with opposition, they will bind together and fight the opposition. My brother and I fought like cats and dogs, but nobody else ever beat him up. I was bigger than him. Right? Nobody else has ever beat him up because I'll take him out. So he dealt with the next part of the opposition. Verse 15, when our enemies heard that we were aware of their plot and that God had frustrated it, we all returned to the wall, each to our own work. Verse 16, from that day on, half of my men did the work, while the other half were equipped with spears, shields, bows, and armor. So you see what he did? He took his workforce and said, we've got this problem out here. I need people focused. So I'm going to get half of these men, because men, we're going to focus really on one thing at a time. Okay? So he got these men and he made them focus. You are the defenders. That is your job. You are the builders. This is your job. Now the builders had swords and stuff with them, but they were builders until the time they needed to be defenders. And then everybody defended. See it again, verse 16. From that day on, half of my men did the work, while the other half were equipped with spears, shields, bows, and armor. The officers posted themselves behind all the people of Judah who were building the wall. Those who carried materials did their work with one hand and held the weapon in the other, meaning that they had it. They did their work, but they were ready at a moment's notice. And each of the builders wore his sword at his side as he worked. But the man who sounded the trumpet stayed with me. Here's Nehemiah saying, you defend, you work. You be vigilant and find the enemies. You know, in the church, we need prayer warriors. We need people that just pray and pray and pray. We need workers. We need all these things, but we need people to do their jobs. What God has called them to do. Whether it's teach, pray, fix, whatever it is, clean, all this kind of stuff. God has called each one of us to do our job. And then the others, you've got workers, you've got defenders, and you've got workers. People are doing things. Then you have the leader, Nehemiah, and you had the trumpet guy. And he says this, then I said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, the work is extensive and spread out, and we are widely separated from each other along the wall. Meaning we're spread out. We got a lot to do. We got work happening everywhere. Nothing is not affected. Right? They're everywhere. They're working on all kinds of things. Matter of fact, did you read through Nehemiah, one whole chapter is devoted to who did what? What families repaired what? What different tribe kind of repaired what? And it's all divided up. So we get to verse 21. Verse 20, Wherever you hear the sound of the trumpet, join us there. Our God will fight for us. He's not meaning stand back and just let God take care of it. Okay? We live in a reality world where God uses us. Let me say it again. We live in a world where God uses us. He's acting. Okay? He gave Nehemiah the plan. If Nehemiah didn't mean for them to come with their spears to protect one another, he would have said, stand back and just let God wipe them out. Okay? So we're all called to be active in God's plans. We're all called. that's worth a drink of water. Verse 21. So we continued to work with half of the men holding spears from the first light of dawn till the stars came out. Man, I've been in those nights. I've been those where it's just the day is going to be forever. From dusk till dawn, and just you're eat on the job, whatever it takes, you get it done. But they were focused on what they were doing. Verse 22, at that time I also said to the people, have every man and his helper stay inside Jerusalem at night, so they can serve as guards by night and as workers by day. They were focused. They needed to get done. They were going to do whatever it took to guard what they were doing. Verse 23 is a little gross, but hey, neither I nor my brothers, nor my men, nor the guards with me took off our clothes. Each had his weapon, even when he went for water. There was no bathing. But they were together. But you know what? That's how focused they were on protecting the family, protecting what God has had them, what God has called them to do. Hear me. We need to focus and unite. We need to protect one another. We need to do what God has called us to do here at the church. And I'm not talking here in these walls. I'm just talking to the church in general. But if it applies to us, it applies to us too. We're building a wall. You think if Nehemiah knew all he was getting in for, he would have started. I think he would, because he was that kind of man. Some people may not have. Maintaining focus in times of opposition. I'll tell you this, that rebuilding something is probably harder than birthing it. Something, it takes God to bring something back from the dead, right? Now, God creates life, we know that, but, we have children and we do things all the time. But if it's dead, it takes God to bring it back. Nehemiah, when he started out, knew that this was his passion. This is what he wanted to do. But even though he felt and knew it was from God. And he's like, God, this is what I'm going to do. And I want to say it the last time. It was Nehemiah's job to be obedient. Not to be successful. That was up to God. Nothing started out, and I'm sure his plans and timbers and things were going wrong at times, but he continued to be obedient. His decisions were in the obedient frame of mind. He loved the Lord. So I'm calling us to what we do as a church. The ultimate for us is to be obedient to what God has. To stay focused on the immediate task at hand on what God has us doing. And the success of it will be determined by God, not by us. This is the first part. Next week we're going to cover chapter 6. And we'll finish with that. Let's pray. Precious God, as we come to you, Lord, I thank you for your word and how it speaks to us today. It's amazing, dear God, that something happened thousands of years ago can be totally relevant to what I am going through, to what we are going through, what your body is going through. Precious God, help us to unite. Help us to seek that which you want us to do and be impassioned about it. But be united, and ultimately, Lord, we need to be obedient. Thank you, God, for being with us. Thank you for all that you've given us. But Father, thank you for all that you're going to do with our obedience. Obedience is a form of surrender. When I'm obedient to your God, I surrender my life, and I do. We surrender our church. We surrender everything. All of our resources, dear Jesus. Surrender to you. Lord, be with us to be obedient as we build the wall, put together the crackers, dear Jesus. And we will give you all the thanks because you're the only one truly worthy of our thanks. In your precious and sweet name we pray. Amen.